What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with another Lucky Dip, and this is another one from Mikey. Big shout out to you. And this is one from a group called Bis. What do you think, Luca? She has an opinion on everything. But yes, ultimately this comes from, I believe, their second album, Social Dancing, in 1999. Thank you to Mikey for the information. And in fact, he put an intro from a different one of their songs, I think Tell It to the Kids, at the front end of this tune, Eurodisco, just because it apparently gives a little introduction to members of the band. And in fact, Mikey mentioned he has a bit of a personal connection to one of the members of the band, so that's always nice when, you know, music is more than just some abstract, you know, CD that you have removed from personal connections or, you know, an immediate friendship. So yes, ultimately my understanding is that they were together. They made, I think, 6 albums overall. I think they were on an initial run, and then they became a 5-some under the name, what is it, Data something? In the moment, I'm forgetting. I do apologize, Mikey. But yes, then after a brief period with that, I think they went their separate ways, but then they've since come back together and are working on, or released a couple more albums, something like that, but they're working on another album now from what I understand, and they're perhaps going to embark on a tour. So either way, I apologize. Sometimes when I do these intros, it's hard to keep everything in my head. But yes, ultimately, he did mention that Bis is the first group that was not signed to like a proper label that made an appearance on Top of the Pops, which is, you know, a program that I've known about for a while, but, you know, it's not part of my personal music history experience. In any case, my understanding is that was a significant appearance. Like, it was a big deal that a group that wasn't from a major label had appeared on the show. And yes, the track is Eurodisco, which, you know, it's a genre, and ultimately a genre that is sort of like rave adjacent, meaning it's not the type of music that was part of the rave parties, you know, techno and trance that I was going to in the 90s, but is in some ways sonically similar to some of the genres, especially maybe like house. But yes, ultimately, I do wonder whether this is an exploration sonically that is paying homage to Eurodisco, whether it's a comment or commentary on the genre and or the scene of Eurodisco. Either way, I'll see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is Bis, the track is Eurodisco, but as I said, there's an opening bit from Tell It to the Kids. Oh, Data Panic. I think that's the name of the group that they were briefly, Data Panic, with a K. In any case, yes, this is Bis, and an opening from Tell It to the Kids, and then the track Eurodisco.
Giving the shout to children of all ages, the purveyors of the finest in teensy power, girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the pop group Bis. Sci-Fi Stephen, a secret vampire by night, ears and eyes always on the lookout for conspiracies against the teensy nation. Lives by the ethic, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Mandarin, seeker of the truth, hair clips and screams used as deadly weapons, childlike appearance used as decoy. A warning to all saboteurs, be fooled and be dead. John Disco, all hail the Disco King, gaze in wonderment at his skanking ability, but don't stare too long. His disco feet can hypnotize. Hear him say, Travolta ain't got nothing on me.
song. It's definitely a fun tune. Lyrically, I'm trying to figure if it is like tongue-in-cheek, making a critical comment on Eurodisco, but it feels more like it's having fun with the concept and in some ways paying homage. Meaning, like, there's the line, as far as I'm hearing it correctly, and I'm not sure that I am, but that, like, it's, kind of the latest trend. And she's saying, like, she lost her 15 minutes on Eurodisco. But then it sounded like they were also saying it's a new beginning, and some of the stylings are indeed, like, a bit Eurodisco, though, with elements that, like, I think you can see as being distinct from that at the same time. Certainly that, like, guitar chord that was very prominent in the latter stages. So, yes, I don't know if it's entirely, like, cheeky and, sort of taking a shot by imitation, or whether, again, it's acknowledging that, like, it's making a resurgence and that maybe it was dismissed as being, just part of this, like, trend and not, like, based in more, like, let's say, artistic sources, but also, embodying it and in a way, again, paying homage to it. So yeah, without like a greater sense, although I have to say with that intro being as funny as it was, and the different notions of the band members, and what was it like, childlike appearance, for deception or whatever, like be confused by it and die. Like, I know I'm not getting the exact phrasing there correctly, but it seems like there is some comedy, just based on the way they introduce themselves in that bit from a different song. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are, a bit tongue-in-cheek here, a bit having fun. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how to place the lines that I did hear imperfectly anyway, but I enjoy the groovy bass line, which had a bit of an electric, like, grit to it, even especially in one moment in the latter stages. It was really sort of like gritty and gurgly, even if overall it was just like a bit electric and, phasing back and forth. As I said, I liked the guitar in that one part, and it had, some rolls, some build-ups, some, like, dead pause, or not full dead pause, but, sort of that little flourish at the end of the measure, rather than just, doing a snare roll right into the, cymbal crash drop. So I enjoy the composition of the dance floor type of tune. Once again, big shout out to Mikey. Ultimately, I have continued to go through some Lucky Dips. I know there's some people out there who've asked for, sort of one-off Lucky Dips, meaning people who haven't given me access to a bunch of them. So I'm always trying to keep up with them if it has been a while, and indeed that's the case with my email too. Just shoot me another email, just remind me. Either way, I will continue to go through Lucky Dips, both more individual and part of these larger playlists, as in the case of Mikey and ultimately Izzy shared a couple different albums that I've been going through as Lucky Dip albums, if you will. So yes, I'll continue to go through all of them. Do let me know what you think, and Luca, the somewhat squirrely cat, and I shall see you next time. Peace.